Ajam nirvikalpam nirakaramekam niranandamanandam advaita purnam param nirgunam nirvishesham niriham parabrahma rupam ganesham bhajema. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Friends, namaste and a hearty welcome to one and all for today's 128th session of Bhagavad Gita verse by verse. Today, we shall be continuing study of Bhagavad Gita verses 20 to 28 of 17th chapter, Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. To help us recollect gist of the previous session verses 11 to 19, let us listen to a recap of the same by Dr. Rekha Kumar. After the recap, Sri Venkatesh Prasad shall introduce us to the day's session. Kumari Sahana will chant today's verses at the end of all the presentations. Over to Dr. Rekha Kumar.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Chapter 17 began with Arjuna's question. He who worships with faith but without scriptural knowledge, is he Sathvik, Rajasic or Tamasic? Lord Krishna replies in verses 2 to 6, and he says faith is of three types, Trivida, based on one's Swabhava or character, which is based on the Purva Janma Vasana. It can be Satvika Shraddha, Rajasic Shraddha, and Tamasic Shraddha. Lord Krishna then glorifies Shraddha with its three factors, object, mode, and motive of worship. Any type of puja for spiritual growth is Satvik, for material benefit is Rajasic, and for harming others is Tamasic. In verses 7 to 10, Lord Krishna voluntarily discusses 4 additional topics that are relevant to a spiritual seeker, saying all these are also Trivida. They are Satvik, Rajasic, and Tamasic, and these are food, ahara, worship, yajnaha, austerity, tapaha, and charity, danam. Next slide, please. We now begin the recap of verses 10 to 19. After discussing Sattvic and Rajasic foods, in verse 10, Lord Krishna discusses Tamasic food. And he says that food which is not properly cooked, which lacks nourishment, which is putrid, stale, or leftover, and which is impure, is liked by Tamasic people. So basically, to take to a spiritual lifestyle, one must change one's character, if it is Tamasic or Rajasic. And this would include one's food habits, because they are not conducive for spiritual progress. So what we learn is that the Vedic concept of daily cooking is that the home is a temple only when the Lord is worshipped appropriately by offering freshly cooked food. Next slide, please. We now come to the topic of Yajna. Krishna approaches this topic, again talking about the 3 types of Yajna, Satvik, Rajasic, and Tamasic. Any karma done with Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Ishvara Prasada Buddhi is called a Yajna. Next slide, please. In the Rajasic Puja, Rajasic Yajna, starting with the Satvika Yajna or Satvika Puja, this is a karma, and these are those that are prescribed for inner growth. That is morning japa, puja, sandhya vandana, or a temple visit without desiring any material benefit, concentrating on what one gives. That is nishkama karmani, nitya naimitta karmani. So any puja, japa, dhyanam, or anything practiced with total commitment for inner growth is called Satvika Yajna, because all actions are done as a dedication to the Lord with no expectation of fruit, and all results are accepted as Ishvara Prasada. Next slide, please. Coming to the Rajasic Yajna in verse 12, these consist of actions which are performed to gain material wealth, name, and fame. That is Sakama Karma. One concentrates selfishly on what one gets, and all the activities are done only for external growth. Next slide, please. In the Tamasic Yajna, those yajnas which are contrary to the scriptural injunctions, which is without cooked food for distribution, without proper mantras, and without proper dakshina or danam, and importantly, without faith. So the very purpose of a yajna is to take the opportunity to share one's possessions with others, which is given at the end as danam. It could be clothes, vastra, food, anna, cow, go, kshetra danam. Yajnas are primarily for our chitta shuddhi and should not be done without faith. Next slide, please. Our Puja Swami Paramartha Nandaji says, the lesson to be learned is that Tamasa Yajna should be given up completely. Rajasa Yajnas should be gradually reduced and Sathvika Yajnas should be increased. And this is called Karma Yoga. The Karma Yogi is one who gives more to society and receives less in return. And the example of the tree is given, which is like a Karma Yogi. It gives shade to travelers from the hot sun and also fruit to those who are hungry. Next slide, please. We now come to the topic of tapas from verses 14 to 19. Next slide, please. In verses 14 to 16, the organ-based classification of tapas is described, which is again of three types. Kaikam tapas, which is physical discipline. The next verse is Vachikam tapas, which is verbal discipline, includes Satyam, Priyam, Hitam. And verse 16 is Manasam tapas, which is mental discipline. Mana prasadaha, Saumyatvam, Maunam, Atma Vinigraha, and Bhava Samshuddhi. Next slide, please. In verses 17 to 19, tapas is described according to the guna. So verse 17 is Satvika tapas, verse 18 is Rajasa tapas, verse 19 is Tamasa tapas. And this classification is based on the method of practice, the attitude towards tapas, and the value attached to tapas by the seeker. Next slide, please. In Satvika tapas, this is voluntarily practiced out of value and regard without expecting any result by those who are integrated and see its value. So dharma should be followed for its own sake and not as a means for material success. So here tapas is the end. And a man who practices this kind of tapas is called a refined, mature person or a Samskrita Purusha. In Rajasa tapas, this is something that is practiced as a means of attaining or with the agenda of artha, kama or punya for praise, honor, glorification and recognition from society. So tapas here is the means, it's not the end. There are two major disadvantages associated with Rajasic tapas. One is adhruvam, that is, it is indefinite, benefits may or may not accrue, and it is chalam, it is fleeting and perishable. For a tamasic person also, tapas is only a means. He does not know the value of tapas and thus uses it for inferior ends, such as revenge. And it may involve unhealthy practices, such as torturing and disfiguring the body. Just like a person who does not know the value of sandalwood will use it as fuel. Among all the sadhanas, the scriptures consider yajna, tapa and danam as very important for spiritual progress. We will study the topic of danam in the subsequent verses. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Rekha, for a nice recap. Till now, we have covered three types of ahara, yajna, and tapas. In today's class, we are going to see the three types of dhanam, which will complete all the four topics Krishna had mentioned early in the chapter. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Before embarking on the topic of dhanam, let us see benefits of dhanam as explained by Swamiji so beautifully. The first and foremost benefit of dhanam, let us see, is the removal of wrong notion that I am insecure. This very notion of being insecure in samsara, and only Brahmagnana can remove this notion. Dhanam will act always as catalyst towards attaining Brahmagnana. The second benefit is to maintain harmony in nature. The entire nature functions in the form of give and take. In fact, nothing in this creation holds on to anything. Anything that stagnates is unfit to use, is unhealthy and to be discarded. So, dhanam ensures continuous flow and maintains equilibrium in nature and creation. Krishna tells Gandhari in Mahabharata that even dharma should never be stagnant pond, but it should be a flowing river. The third benefit is the social benefit. When rich share their wealth voluntarily with poor, the gap between them reduces and will create a harmonious relation in society and maintains social order. The fourth and final benefit is dhanam, is the rehearsal for ultimate sannyasa. Sannyasa is not a physical action, but is mental state in which I relinquish the idea of ownership with regard to everything I use. If I had to relinquish the ownership of everything, I should initially start relinquishing the ownership of few small things. Vairagya and sannyasa are two basic ingredients of dana. Hence, our scriptures give a lot of importance to them. Bhartrhari puts this beautifully in Vairagya Shatakam. Bhoge roga bhayam, kule chuti bhayam, vitte nrupalad bhayam, mane dainya bhayam, bale ripu bhayam, rupe jaraya bhayam, shastre vadi bhayam, gune khala bhayam, kaye kritantat bhayam, sarvam vastu bhayan vitam, bhuvi gudam, vairagyameva bhayam. In enjoyment, there is a fear of disease. In social position, the fear of falling off. In wealth, the fear of hostile kings. In honor, the fear of humiliation. In power, the fear of enemies. In beauty, the fear of old age. In scriptural erudition, the fear of opponents. In virtue, the fear of traducers. In body, the fear of death. All the beings of the world pertaining to man are attended with fear. Renunciation alone stands for fearlessness. Dhanam or giving or renunciation has always been held in an exalted position by our Shastras and tradition. That's why Raja Harishchandra, Raja Shibi, Dadhichi, and Danavira Shurakarna are all our heroes. All our freedom fighters are also our heroes. After explaining all three types of dhanams, Krishna finally says, Tamasic dhanam is better than adhanam. Tamasic dhanam can at least be improvised to Rajasic and from there to Sathvik dhanam. But adhana doshena bhaved daridram, daridre doshena karoti papam, papa avashyam narakam prayati, punar daridro punareva papi. Not giving dana leads to daridra in next janma. Daridra germinates papam, and papam again pushes the being to daridra. Srimati Pallavi and Dr. Bhaskar will explain the three type dhanam in detail as taught by Krishna in these three verses 20 to 22. After verse 22, Krishna is introducing one more topic, the significance of Om Tat Sat. In verse 23, Krishna gives the significance of Om Tat Sat, their meaning and why they are significant, which you will listen from Dr. Bhaskar. Apart from all this, a very important point Krishna makes is, since this mantra is very powerful by its utterance, one can convert all Rajasic and Tamasic activities into Sathvik activities. And if it is already a Sathvik karma, then this mantra will make it more Sathvik. Similarly, he talks about Tat and Sat Padartha in verse 24 and 25, which will be explained by Srimati Indumati and Srimati Padma. Verse 26 and 27 gives 5 meanings of Sat Padartha. This will be handled by Srimati Padma and Dr. Amitabh. Finally, in the last verse 28, he reminds us of his words he said in the beginning of the chapter and re-emphasize that any spiritual or religious activity or tapas or dhanam undertaken without shraddha, sincerity, devotion will be useless. With this, Krishna brings the curtain down on this chapter. Now, let us listen to our speakers who will give us the detailed account of the topics I have briefed. Before I hand over to the first speaker, please note that I will not be coming in between speakers. You can start once your name appears. I will come only after the last speaker finishes. Now, I invite Srimati Pallavi to begin her presentation. Over to you, Pallavi.
Yatvam yamiti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam sattvikam smritam. The verse meaning of this shloka is that charity which is given with an attitude that giving is a duty to a person who may not reciprocate and which is given at the proper place, at the proper time, and to a proper person is considered to be Sathvik charity. As Krishna says, the third significant sadhana is Danam. This act helps to reduce the unhealthy traits in humans to a certain extent, such as Moha, Lobha, Karpanya, and Bhayam. It is divided into three types: Sathvik Danam, Rajasic, and Tamasic Danam. In this verse, Krishna has defined Sathvik Danam, a gift given at the right place, at the right time, and to the right and deserving person, without any expectations like reciprocation, gratefulness, gratitude, and future benefits, is considered as Sathvik Danam. For a mature Sathvik person, Danam itself is an end in itself, and the very Danam gives her joy. For example, gifting blankets in Northeast in winter to the poor or homeless is a Sathvik Danam. Danam can be gifted in various forms like time, service, knowledge, dhanam. If nothing else, smile, blessing, positive words, prayers, danam should be good as well. So in Sattva, danam is the end, and in Rajas, and it's a nishkama danam. Yetu prayutta prakrartam phalam yuddhishya va punaha deyate cha parikshtam taddanam rajasam smritam. The meaning of this shloka is that charity which is reluctantly given for the sake of something in return or expecting a result is considered to be Rajasic. In the case of Rajasic Danam, the person is not mature enough to see the Danam as an end in itself. He looks upon Danam as a means for some other worldly benefit like Punyam. Krishna says it does not matter. Even though it is Rajasic and inferior Danam, which is given with reluctance, at least she looks upon as a means and therefore she always expects something in return. According to Shastra, when you give Danam, even though your material possession is getting depleted, your Punyam bank balance is increasing. In Rajasic Danam, Danam is a means. Rajasic Danam is Sakarma Danam. Example, taking bribes. Here there are two examples of Sathvik Danam and Rajasic Danam. Hari Om.
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Now coming to Tamasic Danam. The verse goes like this. Adesha kale yat danam apatre bayas cha diyate asatkrutam avagnatam tat tamasam udaratam. So that charity which is given at wrong place and time to unworthy people without honoring and with contempt is said to be Tamasic. Here asatkratam means without looking down on the receiver or insulting or harassing the receiver. Avagnam is without insult or disrespect. So the criticizing the Tamasic Danam is to elevate the person from Tamasic to Rajasic and not to bring Tamasic to Adanam. So with this, the four topics, Ahara, Yagna, Tapa, Danam is over. So now Sri Krishna deals with significance of the sacred mantra Om Tat Sat. Next slide. So coming to the verse, Om Tat Satiti Nirdesho Brahma Trividaha Smataha Brahmanastena Vedascha Yagnascha Vitaha Puraha. So Om Tat Sat is considered to be threefold designation of Brahman. Here Brahman is Ishvara. By uttering this, the Brahmins, Vedas, Yajna were created long ago. So Sri Krishna highlights very important point in this verse. The first point is Om is derived from root Om, means Avati, Raksheti, Palayati. Raksha Karta, Palana Karta, the protector of everything, especially the devotee. That means Lord is beyond all the instruments of knowledge. He is Sarva Pramana Agocharam. In simple language, this Apramayam means the unlimited, powerful Lord. Sat means the eternal principle, one who ever exists in the form of the very existence itself. So, Om Tat Sat means the eternal, incomprehensible protector of the universe. So, Brahmanaha Nirdesho means the three names of Ishvara is Om, Tat and Sat. The second point is, when Brahma took the job of creation, when he was creating Brahmana, Veda and Yajna, which was very important for the sustenance of creation, Om Tat Sat was employed. Because of it, he could successfully bring out this wonderful creation. Third point is, it became a convention later because Brahmaji used Om Tat Sat during the creation of Brahmana, Veda and Yajna. Either in the beginning or the end of spiritual sadhana, all the spiritual seekers used to start chanting this mantra. Om Tat Sat is so powerful, it converts all the Tamasic and Rajasic activity into Sathvik activity. If already a person is Sathvik, he becomes more Sathvik with the chanting of this mantra. So Brahmaji has created a very beautiful, wonderful, orderly, rhythmic, glorious, vast, rule-abiding universe with the three products, that is Brahmana, Yajna and Veda. Here, Brahmana means Brahma Veda Janati Iti. So Vedas means the scriptures which teaches Yajna way of life. Yajna means here it is Panchamaha Yajna, the intelligent way of living by which humanity will use all the superior knowledge and power for a constructive purpose. If there is no Yajna way of life, destruction is guaranteed. Because Brahmanas sustain Veda and Veda sustains the Yajna way of life. Only Panchamaha Yajna can sustain creation. So Brahmanas sustain Veda, Vedas sustain Yajna way of life, and Yajna sustains creation. If Brahmana is not there, Vedas dies. If Veda dies, Yajna Brahmana dies. If Yajna Brahmana is dead, the harmonious way of life could become extinct. This is the result of knowledge and power without Yajna. So this is what we are seeing. Without Yajna, the whole world will be at war. So therefore, this wonderful creation, including Brahmana, Veda, Yajna, has emerged from Brahmaji's only after utterance of Om Tat Sat mantra. Hari Om Sir.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We have seen earlier in chapter 3, Shloka 10, which says, Sahayadna Prajasrishtva Purovacha Prajapadihi Anena Prasavishyadvam Yeshavo Stvishta Kamaduk, which tells us that Vedas were created by Brahmanas and Brahmaji, the preservers and promoters of the Vedas. That is why Om Tat Sat is considered to be a very sacred mantra. In the next slide, in Shloka 13, chapter 8, we have this verse, Om Ityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharanma Manusmaran Yah Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim. We see that the meditator who can make an attempt at forgetting his immediate sensual surroundings, can bring his mind under control, and can mentally chant Om with ease and enthusiasm and observe the rising Om waves in the otherwise silenced mind, says Pujya Swamiji Chinmayananda. From Shloka 23 up to the end, Lord Krishna is dealing with the significance of the famous mantra Om Tat Sat. The meaning of the word Om is derived from the root Av, which means Avati, that is Rakshayati, Palayati, meaning the protector of everything, especially the devotee. Om has 3 letters, A, U, and Ma. This powerful mantra has been used by the creator Brahmaji himself when he undertook the job of creation. In the next slide, we have the shloka. Tasmat omityudahritya yagnadana-tapakriyaha pravartamte vidanoktaha satatam brahmavadinam. Word by word, meaning goes like this. Tasmat, therefore, brahmavadinam, those who are well versed in the Vedas, yajna dana tapakriyaha, the activities in the form of yajnas, charities, and austerities, vidana uktaha, which are mentioned by the scriptural injunctions, pravartamte satatam, takes place always, udahritya om, after the utterance of the word om. In the next slide, we see that each action no doubt has its fruits, but the fruit depends not only on the actions as such, but also on the purity of the intentions and motives entertained by the performers. In the next slide, we have the question, when are we to use the term Om? For those who are well versed in the Vedas, the activities in the form of yajna, dana, and tapas, that is, yajnas, charities, and austerities, which are mentioned by the spiritual injunctions, take place after the utterance of the word Om. So, since Brahmaji initiated this tradition of utterance of Om Tat Sat, who is the founder of the universe itself, all the Brahmavadinams, that is, the Vedic followers, especially the spiritual seekers, always utter the Om mantra, Om Tat Sat, fully or partially by uttering the word Om. In the next slide, to conclude, the activities prescribed in the Vedas, Veda Vidhi, Vedic teaching like Yajna, Dana, Tapaha, and Kriyas, which we have seen in the 17th chapter, all the Yajnas like Panchamahayajna, all types of Danam, and all types of Tapas like Kayika, Vachika, and Manasika Tapas. All these are performed by spiritual seekers by uttering Om Tat Sat or merely Om. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om Tat Sat, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the earlier verses, Lord Krishna has explained the significance of the word Om. In the next 2 verses, he explains the significance of Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat are the names of Brahma or Ishvara, symbolizing different aspects of the absolute truth. Tat means that, it refers to God. Sat means truth, and God is truth, which is unchanging and everlasting. The Mahavakya of the Chandogya Upanishad, Tat Tvamasi, you are that. Here, that refers to Brahma, the creator. The creator and his creations are one and the same. Swami Paramarthanandaji gives the meaning of Tat as Tat Brahma, who is incomprehensible like his creations and is aprimeya, beyond measure. Verse 25. Tat ityanabhi samdhaya phalam yagna tapakriyaha dana kriyascha vividaha kriyante moksha kanchibihi. Translation. After uttering the word Tat, various activities in the form of yagnas, austerities, and charities are undertaken by the seekers of liberation without expecting the result. In these words, Lord Krishna says, Moksha Kanshibihi, that is, the spiritual seekers perform activities in the form of yagna, sacrifice, tapas, austerities, and dana, charities. And how? Anabhisamdhaya, without any expectation of any phalam or fruits for their deeds. Yagna does not necessarily mean sacrifice. In chapter 3, Lord Krishna explains yagna as yagna way of life, that is a lifestyle with wisdom and good conduct, where a human being uses his intelligence and wisdom acquired through Vedic knowledge for the betterment of the universe. Thus, yagna sustains the universe. Karma Yoga suggests we perform our day-to-day activities to exhaust our accumulated prarabdha for spiritual enhancement. Since Brahma uttered Om Tat Sat during Srishti, creation of the universe, all spiritual seekers chant Om Tat Sat either at the beginning or at the end of a ritual while undertaking a karmic activity, yagna, tapas, dana, in the name of God, symbolizing that they are not to be performed for material gain. Verse 26. Sadbhave sadhubhave cha saditye tat prayujyate prashaste karmani tatha sachidabha partha yujyate. Translation. The word Sat is used in the sense of existence and goodness. Further, the word Sat is used in the sense of good actions, O Arjuna. In this verse, Lord Krishna explains the significance of Sat. Brahma alone is Sat, eternal truth, unchanging reality. Like energy, it is neither created nor can be destroyed. The Lord is all-pervading energy. The word Sat means the eternal principle, the supreme truth, one which is in the form of the very existence itself. In this word, Lord Krishna gives three meanings to the word Sat and two more meanings in the next verse. The first meaning, Sadbhavi, Prayujyate, used in the sense of pure or eternal existence. The second meaning, Sadhubhavi, meaning good and noble conduct, referring to character acquired or cultivated or of inborn nature, Swabhavaja. Here, Lord Krishna refers to character transformation from Tamasic, Rajasic to Sathvik nature. The third meaning of Sat is Prashasti Karmani, activity or action which is good and noble. All mantras acquire power when the meaning and significance are clearly contemplated in the mind or in thoughts. Om Tat Sat should be used with Shraddha. Swami Chidbhavananda ji has said in his commentary, a stone soars up in the sky to the extent momentum is imparted to it. A tree grows up in tune with its inherent vitality. A lotus shoots up along with the rise in the level of water in the pond. Similarly, man rises in his worth and attainments corresponding to the Shraddha with which he is endowed. He is nothing more or less than what his Shraddha is. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you, sir.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We will look at verse 1727, which continues with the meaning of Om Tat Sat. Yagno tapase danechi sthiti sadditi chotyate karma chaiva tattadhyam saditya vabhidhiyate. So what this translates to is that steadfastness in yagna, austerity, and charity is termed as Sat. Any action for the sake of the Lord is indeed said to be Sat. So elaborating on this verse, Lord Krishna, who continues with the topic of Om Sat Tat Sat from the previous verse, says that Sat means perseverance or commitment or willpower in the pursuit of three spiritual disciplines, yajna, danam, and tapas. So this completes the fourth meaning of Sat. Now coming to the fifth meaning of Sat. Sat is karma chaiva tadarthya. Even mundane activities like cleaning, earning a living, or sweeping, if they are done in support of yajna, dana, and tapas, it is said to be Sat karma. For example, many of us are involved in preparing a presentation or a PPT for the Param Vedanta class. This may seem like a mundane activity, but since it is done in support of promoting the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, it could be considered as Sat karma. This gives a very good pointer to all of us as to how we can spiritualize our day-to-day living and day-to-day activities. So this completes the topic on the significance of Om Tat Sat. So we can now move to the next slide, sir. So we are now in the 28th verse. Ashraddhaya hutam datam tapas taptam krutam chayata asad ityuchayate partha nachatat prayatya no iha. So what this means is that whatever is offered as oblation or given as charity or practiced as austerity and done as worship without faith is said to be asat. It fructifies neither here nor hereafter. In this verse, Lord Krishna reminds us about Shraddha or sincerity. This was the topic with which chapter 17 was started. What happens when spiritual activity is practiced without sincerity? Many people offer hutam or oblation, perform charity, and various austerities. All that is fine, but what is more important is the intent behind them. Are they performed with sincere intent? In Kathopanishad, Nachiketa's father performs charity, but it was in effect getting rid of his sick cows. So this is an example of charity performed with insincere intent. In our professional lives, we may not be happy sometimes with the work that we are doing, and we just do it because we are asked to do so. And this can create long-term stress, and it can affect our mental and physical health, leading to psychosomatic ailments that have become so common today. Therefore, Sri Krishna gives us a warning. If noble karma is done without sincerity, it will not give us benefit in this life or hereafter. So this concludes the 17th chapter. And so, Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Shu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yogo Namo Sapto Dashadhyayaha. Om Hari Om.
Thank you, Mr. Amitabh Roy, sir. All the speakers have done an excellent job and have covered the topics beautifully, and nothing is left to be added. I want to say something different. Swamiji very prudently add this portion in his commentary, which strangely Krishna has not covered. He must have left it to the intellect and discretion of individual. But if God is kind, Guru is kindest. Therefore, Swamiji makes it a point to advise this. Krishna elaborately defines the types of food, faith, type of worship, method of worship, type of deity one worships, tapas, yajna, and dana. He exhorts us to elevate ourselves from Tamasic to Sathvik for everything. But he doesn't say the method to attain this. We must be indeed grateful to Swamiji for gracing us with these techniques. I will just mention them briefly. He gives 5 ways to attain Sathvik Manovritti. The first way of thing is prarthana. One way of praying is as practiced since childhood. Oh God, please give me sadbuddhi, healthy virtues, healthy mind, with prayers like Bhadram Karne Vishrunayama Deva, etc. The other way is to follow the ways of virtuous people. Bhagwan is the embodiment of highest virtues. Being in association with God will always keep us in good stead. Ramo Vigrahavan Dharmaha. Listen to Ramayana. Valmiki asks, is there a person with these virtues. He gives a list. And then Narada tells that not only these, some more I will add. Rama is the embodiment of all these things. Konvasmin samprataloke gunavan kascha viryavan dharmagnascha kritagnascha satyavakyo dridhavrataha charitrena cha ko yuktaha sarvabhuteshu ko hitaha vidvan kaha ko samarthascha kaschaika priyadarshanaha. Narada enlists 16 virtues of Rama. Anyone who reads Ramayana will no doubt be inspired to elevate himself, herself to Sathvik bent of mind and way of life. The word bhakti is derived from the root bhaj sevayam, meaning inculcating the virtues of the deity he worships. The second method is satsanga. The second method is association with virtues. Association with virtues because by the law of association, I develop the virtues of the person that I move with. Important values I learn by observing the lifestyle of Mahatmas. As Shankara puts it, satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam. The next method is sankalpa. The third method, in this method, you develop positive virtue. I pick up any positive virtue which I feel I am lacking. I can take a sankalpa. I will do that until it becomes natural. Like that, any number of virtues I can repeat and do it. Sankalpa means auto-suggestion with regard to virtue I want to nurture and cultivate. Next is Pratipaksha Bhavana. The fourth method is a method especially important to give up the unhealthy tendency. In the previous method, that was to nourish the healthy one. Here in the fourth one, it is gradually eliminate the negative one. That is called Pratipaksha Bhavana. Thus, if there is hatred, neutralized by love. If there is criticism, neutralized by praise. If there is selfishness, neutralized by selflessness. This is called Pratipaksha Bhavana. The last one is Viveka. Fifth and final and the toughest is educating the mind. Viveka, emotional education, which is called Viveka. That is cognitive therapy and should have knowledge about my mind and my emotions. And if I know I will follow healthy emotions and try to avoid the unhealthy ones, this is called Viveka, discretion. So if I follow Prarthana, Satsanga, Sankalpa, Pratipaksha Bhavana and Viveka, then I can become Sathvik and make Vedanta work for me. With pranams to the lotus feet of Swamiji, who gave us these tips, I will conclude this discussion on this beautiful chapter. I invite Kumari Sahana to chant the verses 20 to 28, which we have discussed today.
Hari Om. Dhatavyamiti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam yatyu pratyupakarartam phalamuddishya va punaha diyate cha pariklishtam taddanam rajasam smritam adeshakale yaddanam apatrebhyascha diyate asatkritam avajñatam tattamasamudaritam. Om Tat Sat iti nirdesho brahmanastrivida smritaha brahmanastena vedascha yajñascha vivita pura tasmado mityudaritya yajñadana tapakriyaha pravartante vidanoktaha satatam brahmavadina tadhityanabhisandhaya phalam yajñatapakriyaha danakriyascha vividaha kriyante mokshakankshibihi sadbhave sadhubhave cha sadityetat prayujyate prashaste karmani tata sachabda partayujyate yajne tapasi dane cha sthite saditi chochyate karma chaiva tadhartiyam sadhityeva bidhiyate ashraddhaya hutam तं तपस्तप्तं कृतं च यत् असद् इत्युच्यते पार्थ न च तत्प्रेत्य नो इह ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे श्रद्धात्रयविभागयोगो नाम सप्तदशोऽध्यायः हरि ओम्।
Friends, an important announcement. You are aware our Param Vedanta classes are totally free. But Param Vedanta, continuing its tradition of offering Guru Dakshina collectively to our Gurus on Gita Jayanti, invites you to participate in this collective offering, where the entire contributions received will be offered at the lotus feet of our Gurus. Please note that your decision of offering any amount is purely voluntary and there is absolutely no compulsion at all. Our thanks to all those who have already contributed in response to our appeal on 2nd of December. For those desirous of joining in this collective effort of offering Guru Dakshina, the bank details for different modes of transfer are displayed on the screen. The same shall also be shared in our Telegram group for your reference. Request you to also update the transaction details on Google Forms, link of which shall also be shared in the Telegram group. On that note, let us conclude today's session by thanking Sahana for your flawless chanting. Thank you, teachers, for your wonderful informative presentations. Thank you, seekers, for your active participation. On Monday, 2nd January 23, the next year, at 6:45 p.m., let us meet for our 42nd Disha session, Discovery of Inner Strength and Happiness. In this episode, we will continue study of 9th chapter along with Tattva Bodha, topic on Bhakti Yoga as a course of discipline. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.